You are listening to ChartingWealth.com for Thursday, the 20th of April, 2017. We see stocks are mixed. The S&P 500 down a little bit. The Qs, the NASDAQ 100 up a little bit. Gold and bonds down. Now let's jump into what's going on. We'll start off with SPY. On our weekly chart, we continue to see down movement. We have movement below both our gold weekly trend line and our 2-day trend line. So we continue to be very excited and happy as to what we see going on with our weekly vertical crossover. Seeing those markets continue to move down as expected. Hopefully you jumped in right around the Monday, the 3rd of April, as that opportunity presented itself on the weekly vertical crossover. We've continued to see what we jumped in somewhere around 134 to 135, and now we're all the way down to 233.37, so down a couple of bucks. So anyway, not a bad move over the course of these last few days. We'll continue to monitor as the market continues to roll over, heading down. Our 2-day chart is continuing to look good, and our weekly chart, we're seeing the same. Derivative oscillator continues to heat up, and the price percent oscillator continues to move down. Now let's take a look. And for the day, the S&P was down 0.18. The Qs, another matter, it was up a little bit for the day, 0.16. We had our weekly vertical crossover, of course, occur at the end of the week. The week ended early last week on the 13th, Thursday, closed for Good Friday. And we continue to see the derivative oscillator growing in energy moving down and the PPO heading down. We have 2 weeks of down movement. And if we hone in on that a little more, we'll see on our 2-day chart that we crossed over quite a while back on the 2-day chart, going down back on the 10th of March. Market went up for a while, then headed back down, up a little bit more, and then started its latest down move on the 7th. We had that weekly vertical crossover, of course, at the end of this prior week. We've seen the last couple of days some up movement as far as the candlesticks go. We continue to see on the 2-day chart derivative oscillators keeping its down energy, and we're continuing to see the PPO in a downward momentum. We will continue to watch very closely. We are just below the weekly trend line as far as the 2-day chart goes, and we're below the 2-day trend line. So we'll keep our eye on things as we hone into actually how things went throughout the course of the day. On the 2-hour chart, we see that it crossed over going up in the afternoon on Monday after a good getting in point earlier in the day. And what happened, of course, is the market moved up, moved down sort of toward the end of the day on Monday, and then on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, took off big in the morning and then lost energy in the afternoon. So we'll continue to keep our eye on it. Remember, we do have that weekly vertical crossover in play that just recently occurred. We'll see how long it takes the Qs to actually pull over hard, if indeed that happens. Again, we are trend following. We will follow what the trends tell us. But so far, it is that we have a down move on the Qs. Hey, let's take a look now at what's going on in bonds. Bonds continue on the weekly chart to rocket up. Of course, what happens when stocks go down? Money flees over to bonds. Bonds, of course, bottomed around the 17th of March. And then we saw green candle up movement starting. We had our weekly vertical crossover, of course, occur all the way back on that weekly chart, back on the 3rd of February, up for a little bit, then rolled over down, started moving up in earnest on Friday the 24th, and we've seen things moving up ever since then. We closed out with a big green up candle. For the record, The bonds were down a little bit for the day, 0.55%. We continue to see upward movement grow on that weekly chart on the derivative oscillator as well as the price percent oscillator. Let's take a look at that 2-day chart. Again, continued up movement well above the weekly trend line. We see things continuing to move. We're happy with the progress on bonds, TLT. Lastly, let's look at gold. Gold down for the day, the most of all of our charts, 0.89%. And when we look at the 2-day chart, in fact, let's look at the weekly chart first. See that the weekly is continuing to build energy on the derivative oscillator, and the PPO is continuing to move up, price movement well above the weekly trend line. Of course, our initial starting point on gold somewhere around somewhere around 114, 115. Gold reached as high over the course of the last 2-day candle as 123. So things have appreciated nicely. If we look at our 2-day chart, we can see that gold has shown some weakening on this last 2-day candle. So pay close attention to that. Derivative oscillator has lost energy. Our PPO is still moving up, but has lost energy, particularly from that strong bound up between the 7th and the 11th, those 2-day candles, where we really started seeing, well, actually the 11th and the 13th, where we had some strong up movement. So keep an eye on gold. And of course, what do we look at first and foremost with gold? That 4-hour chart has crossed over going down. Those of you who know how prescient that 4-hour chart is, you know that it typically shows us ahead of time very correlated what gold is doing, and we did have that crossover occur in the afternoon at the close of the market. So again, pay close attention to gold. Remember how important that 4-hour chart is to us. Folks, that's where we are as we end the day on Wednesday and we go into Thursday, the 20th. So we so much appreciate you being with us. We always love bringing this information to you. We love hearing from you. You can write a CW at chartingwealth.com or just go to the website Charting Wealth, and under the Contact Us page, you can email us right from there. You have questions, problems, concerns, we are happy to address them. If you've not already subscribed to our daily podcast, you can do that at the website. With that, you will get added bonuses, our How to Read a Stock Chart video, a link to that, the layout that we use at freestockcharts.com, and our daily and weekly market worksheets. So you want to know more about us, go to that website. You can find it. Please continue to subscribe at our YouTube channel. Also on iTunes, you can subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating. Say something nice about us. We so appreciate that. Let us hear from you at chartingwealth.com.